Alright, in this video I'm going to try to remove the pulley off the crankshaft. We can give some measurements off of that and see what size trigger wheel I need to buy. And then we'll probably end up having to chuck it in the lathe with the trigger wheel and get that all dialed in. Looks like the real difficult part is going to be getting these belts off. There's, what was that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 V-belts on this car. Looks like AC compressor down there has like a auto tensioning thing maybe. I'm really not sure about the power steering pump. The alternator seems to have this focus. Has like a tensioner made into that bolt. It's kind of like a gear. Very interesting. I've never seen that. And I'm not sure about that. That's actually the air pump. I may actually just go ahead and remove that now because it only uses it on cold start. I think it's just for emissions. And it's very loud and obnoxious. It sounds like the car has a really bad exhaust leak in the manifold or something when it comes on. I don't think it's really needed for really as far as the car is concerned. I think it's just there for emissions. So I'll see about that. I bought 2 of them because they haven't had a price increase in a few years, and with all the prices going up, I decided, I'll just go ahead and buy another one, and I know I'll use it eventually. This is the amped version. So amp EFI took this guy, the MicroSquirt, and they stuck this sticker over top of the original sticker. And the main difference, I believe, is that the amp version has injector drivers that will max out at 19 amps a piece. And that's quite a bit more over the factory MicroSquirt. And you can use a factory one with 8 injectors, 4 injectors per channel. But you're really starting to push the drivers harder than they're really intended for. So I went ahead and bought the amped version. It also has built-in pull-up resistors for the ignition channels, because typically on a V8 what you have to do, because a MicroSquirt only has 2 ignition channels, right there they are, ignition 1 and ignition 2, you can use the A LED and the W LED, which is amber white LED, I guess is what they call them, wires. And if you add a pull-up resistor, you can use these as ignition channels as well. So then you can get 4 ignition channels to run 8 coils in wasted spark mode. Instead of having to solder pull-up resistors on the board, they just went ahead and added them on some dip switches. I decided I'm going to start with this alternator belt, even though it's actually the 3rd one back on the pulley focus. So it looks like, take this bolt back here loose. And this one here. Probably enough. You loosen that bolt there, this little one up here, and then this is the adjuster down here. don't know if you can see that, but kind of pulls the alternator up. I'd say that's a little overcomplicated, but you know, I'm sure the Germans know something I don't. Interesting enough, that alternator looks just like a GM alternator. The way this bolt here screws into the alternator, and has the one over here. I could probably upgrade this to a what are they? I think like 100 amps or 85 amp GM alternator. I'll have to see about that. I was working on the smog pump, and I got the belt loose. This is the incoming air to the pump, and there's a focus. There's a little solenoid right here, a little vacuum solenoid. That top hose is where it pulls in fresh air off the air cleaner, and it's got a big crack in it. This bottom hose is where it goes through a little valve that's controlled by that vacuum solenoid, and then it looks like it's just broken off, and there is where it goes. Sorry. Looks like, let me get the camera right here. It's pretty odd. It goes in like the front of the cylinder head. I thought it would go into the exhaust manifold directly. So I looked it up on the forums, and people seem to just be able to remove it. It doesn't affect the performance or anything, or how the car runs. I mean, I know it's just for emissions, so it's probably what I'll do, except trying to loosen the top bolt. Here. It's kind of behind the belt up there. It's actually an Allen head, and of course it's stripped out. So I was able to get the bottom one loose. I'm not really sure how I'm going to get it off of there now. May have to take this whole bracket off, but they put one of the bolts. I doubt it's going to focus, but yeah, they kind of hard to see, but there's one right there behind that oil filter housing. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to that. We'll see how it goes. I went ahead and got the belts off. That was kind of a real pain in the butt. The power steering was the worst. It's got a bolt here and one way down there that had to use a swivel on. And there's a bolt buried down here somewhere, then a adjuster that is used to swing the power steering pump on that top bolt. I took the fan off as well, as I think that'll make it a lot easier to get to the crankshaft pulley. Now there's quite a bit of room in here. Still can't get that bolt out. Right there. So maybe I can take the entire bracket off with it. We'll see. Right now I'm gonna try getting this crankshaft pulley off. I think it has 6 or 8 bolts to hold it on. I got all these bolts loose. Now I'm just feeling around for them. I got 3 out so far. They're just a 13 millimeter or 13 millimeter socket. Probably 10 millimeter thread. Alright, I got the bolts out, and then I don't know if you can see it, but I scratched a line in it so I know which way it orientates, though I believe it's neutral balance. I know Mercedes did some weird stuff, like the flywheel will actually go on pretty much any direction or orientation, but it's actually balanced to the crankshaft as an assembly. So if you mess up and take the flywheel off without marking it, well, you're kind of screwed. And I may need to pop the radiator fan shroud off or something. Alright, I got out of there actually just by taking off that distributor cap cover. Then I took the fan shroud off, so lost a little bit of coolant, but we got it off. It looks like there's the harmonic balancer. Thing's massive. It looks like there was maybe 6 bolts. I see this little bracket right there. Maybe I can mount the crankshaft sensor to that. So I have to see what the spacing is. I just wanted to see what we were dealing with. Here's that scratch mark I put in it. I don't know if these probably aren't big enough. In fact, I might need to take it out of there. So it's about 3.75 exactly. So because of the tooth height, I'd probably need a figure. The wheel's going to come up on either side, maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch diametrical. So they only make so many different sizes. I probably have to get something like a 5-inch wheel. I stuck in the lathe just to see kind of what we're dealing with here. I got it on a low speed. The pulleys, as you'd expect, run pretty true to the crank. I might have actually not set that on the chuck perfectly, but I don't know how well you can see, but there's a little bit of run out. I have to get a dial indicator and put on there. So I think, I don't know how, this isn't very thick. I don't want to turn it down until it's completely, all the run out's gone. So what I may do is just clean it up a little bit. And then once I get the wheel on there, I'll attach it with some tack welds. And then come back through and clean that wheel up. As long as it has enough tooth height left, that should work pretty well, because I'm using a Hall sensor, so it only needs enough distance that when the tooth is there, it trips the Hall sensor, and it goes away. And a lot of that can just be set with how close the sensor is to the trigger wheel. So I was hoping to have this completed, and I've slowly just been boring out this trigger wheel. I flipped these jaws around and seemed to hold it pretty concentrically. What's holding me up right now is that I had to mount this in a 4-jaw chuck by the pulley, which is not a ground or a machine surface. I mean, the inside of the pulleys are, but the outside ring is not. And the problem with holding it by the pilot hole is I can't actually get my tool in here to turn down the diameter. I guess it's just a little bit too big. So I need to get a dial indicator, get this trued up on the 4-jaw. I did start boring this out, and it's been going very slowly. So I figured out the lathe has a gear reduction, and I played with the pulley some and got a better speed on here. Now this is about as large as I want to go right now until I get the about 3.5 inches until I get the pulley turned down. Measures about 3.75. So I was hoping to have it finish this video, but I think it's going to take me a little while to get a dial indicator and get this trued up. So next video I think will show me mating these two parts and putting some tack welds and truing it up. So that should have the trigger wheel solution figured out, and then I may make a separate video for mounting the actual Hall sensor to look at that. Thanks for watching.